Good afternoon. Again, I'm Lidia Curanaj. Despite having her support person, Tim Walz, by her side, Kamala fumbled through her first sit-down interview, flip-flopping more than a dead fish. The media reviews, though, once again proving President Trump he's up against a coordinated machine.
How do you think Dems are feeling about her performance last night?
They should be feeling good about it, in part because there were no mistakes.
I thought it was better than that, actually. I thought she did herself good in that interview.
They finally did the first fake interview and not have any sort of viral clip that their opponents could seize on.
That is not the last test that she'll face in that realm, but I think she did an exceptional job in the interview that we saw last night.
Unbelievable. Now, almost 40 days after the oligarchs installed Kamala Harris as a Democratic presidential nominee, and Kamala finally spoke. She spoke without a teleprompter, and she spoke longer than just a few seconds during a press gaggle. She gave that exclusive to CNN's Dana Bash, but Dana, she pitched softer balls than I do with my 7-year-old playing wiffle ball in our backyard.
How should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here, in your policy? Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? Would you do anything differently? For example, would you withhold some U.S. weapons shipments to Israel? That's what a lot of people on the progressive left want you to do.
During that interview, Kamala only spoke for a mere 16 minutes and 29 seconds. I think Tim Walz, how he's propped up on the high chair there, spoke for about 3 minutes. You compare that with Trump's sit-down interviews, and with Elon Musk, he spoke for 2 hours and 3 minutes. With Sean Ryan, 1 hour, 11 minutes. Theo Vaughn, 57 minutes. Dr. Phil, 57 minutes. None of it edited. President Trump, of course, not one to hold back. Take a listen to what he said at his rally in Johnston, Pennsylvania, on what he thought of Kamala's performance in that interview.
Did you see her? Did you see her last night? Did you see her last night? I don't know. You think she's going to be able to handle President Xi? I don't know. I don't think so. China, North Korea, Russia, I don't know. Sitting propped up in a desk with this guy, this Tampon Tim. And it's the first interview she's done, and nobody's ever seen anything like it. And if you're too weak to do a one-on-one interview with a person that was so soft.
Despite those most basic of questions, Kamala, she couldn't keep her lies straight on multiple issues. That's why I'm calling her now Kamalize. Take a listen to her flip-flopping on fracking.
I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
There's another Kamala. Here she is being asked the same question during a town hall on the climate crisis in 2019.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public land.
Kamala also said during that town hall that she'd ban fracking on day one if elected. Now, here's what Kamala said she would do now if elected as president.
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit.
So her day one opportunity economy plan is to tax unrealized gains, raise corporate taxes, price controls, and J.D. Vance's plan to raise the child tax credit. Because clearly the White House's economic policies, they're working so well for Americans already. According to Moody Analytics, Biden Kamala economic policies are costing millions of Americans hundreds of dollars more every single month. Inflation under Trump was almost non-existent, as was the border crisis, a crisis now so out of control that in Aurora, Colorado, a Venezuelan gang of illegals took over an entire apartment complex. This is 600 miles away from the border, and this is actually happening in the United States. And the even more sad part about all of it is we're paying for this. Billions of our taxpayer dollars incentivizing this invasion. Yet when CNN asks the border czar, Kamala, whether crossing illegally into the country should be decriminalized, here's what she said.
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced that address and deal with people who cross our border illegally, and there should be consequences.
Another Kamala. Does she not realize we have receipts?
I'm in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. That's correct. That is correct.
Here's what else is correct, Kamala. You helped create this mess that the country is in. Yet, according to Obama's former senior advisor, David Axelrod, the vice president apparently does absolutely nothing.
I don't think the thing about, this whole thing about, you didn't say it tonight, but you've said before, and I just disagree with this notion that Dan actually asked a question. Well, you've been there for 3.5 years. No vice president makes policy. Okay, let's just make that clear.
Well,
nobody has said this before. Nobody talks about the Pence years.
Not according to Kamala, and not according to Joe Biden either. Biden has consistently said that Kamala even speaks for him. Take a listen.
She's leading the effort because I think the best thing to do is to put someone who, when he or she speaks, they don't have to wonder about, is that what the president is? When she speaks for me, doesn't have to check with me. She knows what she's doing, and I hope we can move this along.
From the horse's mouth. Throughout that entire CNN sit-down interview, Kamala struggled to form coherent thoughts. When asked about her values changing, she brought up the Green New Deal, and then I don't even know. Just watch this.
The climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time.
What in the words? I don't even know what she just said right there. Deadlines around time? Could you imagine her with world leaders? And then here's another Kamala, what she said in her desperate attempt to put down President Trump.
I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation. And I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
Does she not know that she's the vice president now and that Joe Biden has been the president for the last 3.5 years? I know he's at the beach all the time. And by the way, the Democrats have controlled the White House for 12 of the last 16 years. And then there's poor support person Tim Walz. He just kind of sat there the entire time, kind of nodding along. But here's one of his most memorable moments.
The idea that you said that you were in war. Yeah. Did you misspeak, as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar's not always correct.
So now grammar is an excuse for stolen valor? But what do you expect from this duo? I mean, really? Looks like Kamala even lied about working at McDonald's in college. She just started saying that recently. Snopes investigating and stating, quote, but aside from Harris's testimony itself, there is no evidence. There's no photo, employment record. There's nothing to independently verify this claim. So, at this point, I think if you look up the term face plants in the dictionary, a picture of Kamala's face should be there. I really wish, though, that CNN would have asked them both these 3 simple questions. What is a woman? Number 2, can a man become pregnant? And number 3, should children be allowed to change their gender? Then the world would have truly seen this team for what they really are, radically left frauds. Does Kamala even show up to the debate with President Trump now on September 10th? Will she find a way out of it? I don't know. If she listens to her handlers this time, she might even back out and the media will glorify her for it. But you know what? I hope she does back out, because then we'll finally all be unburdened by any hope that she could actually become president.